listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again, and today we have another amazing show lined up for y'all today. Man, we have a special guest, Tiana Sanchez. She is the CEO and founder of TSI. You know what that is, right? Well, we're about to find out a little bit more about her and her executive coaching, her corporate training, and also she is a #1 best-selling author and also a podcast host and also a keynote speaker. She's always busy doing great things. First and foremost, Tiana, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on the show.
Man, appreciate you taking your time because I know you're super busy. And TSI, just in case y'all don't know what that is, it's Tiana Sanchez International. First and foremost, do us the honors. Tell us, the audience, a little bit about yourself and what inspired you to do all the amazing things you do today.
Well, I started off as an employee working at a gourmet fast food restaurant back in the early 90s and turned entrepreneur probably about 12 years ago. So, I grew up in Los Angeles, California. So from LA, the West Coast, not sure where your listeners are from, but those were my roots. And I'm a middle child. Grew up in that particular area in a time where, we loved, it was just all about work, work. That's what my mom did. That's what my dad did. I never, ever thought I would be an entrepreneur, but then, things happen. And right around 2008, the financial crisis hit. So I'm having a pretty successful career at that point, working, started at the age of 16. But then in 2008, I ended up losing my job. And I had to figure out what I wanted to do. And I decided 90 days after I got the notice to start a business. And I had no degree. I had no business acumen. I had essentially no trade, nothing, no knowledge about owning a business. And yet I decided to do that. And 12 years later, we're still in business, working with a ton of companies across the United States. And I've written a couple of books, as you talked about, and done some work. So that is the Cliff Note version of the story.
And you also have an amazing show yourself, Like a Real Boss. And you know what it's like to be a real boss. And you help other bosses become better bosses. And kind of tell the audience a little bit about your brand, the core mission, and what you do every day for your clients.
Well, I'm going to imagine that everybody listening has at some point in their career worked for somebody else. I think that's probably a pretty good, accurate assessment. At some point, everybody's had a boss. And I am pretty sure that at some point you question whether or not your boss was the right boss, whether it was something they did or said or didn't do or didn't say. And so my sweet spot, what I enjoy doing is really helping to equip managers and leaders to be better managers and leaders, because there's so many people that are disengaged, or so many people that what we call now the silent quit. They're there present physically, but not mentally present. And oftentimes people leave their bosses and not their jobs. And so having started at 17 years old, being a manager, working at a gourmet fast food restaurant in California, Santa Monica, California, I started my managerial journey. So I was literally 17 years old, about 4 months away from graduation, when they said, "Hey, do you want to be a manager?" And I was like, well, I've never been a manager before. Don't really know what it's like. And I thought about it a day, said, let me think about it, went back and said, you know what, I'll do it, because I didn't want to live in regret. So that started that managerial journey, working at different companies, food and beverage, retail, clothing, and then in the financial industry. So I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of managers. And oftentimes managers just truly don't know how to manage, and they're prematurely put into roles that they are not equipped. And so what we do is we help to work with companies to first identify what some of those gaps are. What are some of those challenges? We do that through assessments. And then B, we come in and help to build them up. So whether it's providing them tools, techniques, coaching, training, what have you, we come alongside them, because you're not going to essentially go in and say, hey, well, everybody's fired who's not supposed to be in this position. You could do that, but we like to take a less punitive role and come alongside the companies and work with them to build up their managers.
And with your book, you kind of, one of your books, because you have more than one. The one in particular, F'd Up, The Upside of Failure, you kind of explore 4 different types of fear and how to overcome them. If you could give the audience a little teaser of that book, tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes. So F'd Up, The Upside of Failure was a book that I wrote with my then 17-year-old son, who was a high school senior in college. He was an athlete, played basketball for a school. And I wanted to write about the failures that we tend to find ourselves in. This is like a follow-up from the first book, which was called Undefeatable. And I noticed my son was going through a lot of different changes at school. And, at the time, it was just, I think social media was like really, starting to expand. And it was all these celebrities on there just showing what they had, and everybody coming out of school like, oh yeah, I want to get that too, but you haven't done anything to get that. And I wanted to send a message that says, part of success is failure. You're going to fail your way to the top. You're going to experience these things. So I wrote the book as a way to teach young people really, that failure is not something to be afraid of. And it's not something to fear. It's not something to be scared of. And through that, it actually was it did really well in the corporate space as well. But one of the failures we talked about, because we talk about success, right? Failure of success, but it's the fear of the unknown. I talk about that in the book. So it's, for me, I look at the intersection of uncertainty and excitement was where I was when I was, 17 years old, becoming a manager. But often people find themselves at that intersection. They're excited about a new opportunity, about a new possibility, about something different, but they're also uncertain because they've never been there before. They don't know what to expect, and that's scary. And so I talk about the fear of the unknown. I talk about the fear of greater responsibility. I mean, can you imagine? Think about when you were 17 years old. I don't know what you were doing, but I was trying to, live my life, hang out with my friends. I worked, I was responsible, but I'm preparing for college. So you think about this incredible responsibility of a 17-year-old managing people, managing processes. I had no idea. That's a scary thing, which is why I didn't say yes. Immediately when they asked me, I said, let me think about it. But I didn't want the regret to consume me. So I said, sure, I'll go ahead and do it. So those are just a couple of the examples of fear that we may confront or come up against in our life. The fear of the unknown, the fear of more responsibility, and of course, fear of failure as well. But I think failure is only failure if you fail to learn from it. That's the true failure. If you don't learn anything from the experience.
And all this applies to what we are talking about today with the subject of thriving as an entrepreneur and CEO, because like you're saying moments ago, failure is just part of the process. It's part of your story. It's part of your journey. We almost over 800 interviews in since 2017. I never met a guest who has told me, oh yeah, I never failed. Everything was easy. I was born that way. I was always successful. I was always winning. That's never the case. And like you said, failure is when you quit. It is not so much that you're the only one in the world that has bad experiences. You are part of the journey of crafting your own life. Like someone said to me earlier this week, you are responsible of being the architect of your life. No one else can build it for you. It's only you that gets the true honor to build it yourself. And the only way we can do that is by overcoming those seasons of losses, of losses.
Right.
Now, for our listeners, you building your brand, what's some of the things that you learn along the way, not just putting yourself out there, but attracting those clients to trust your brand and your services?
Well, for me, it was tough initially because when I started doing my work, when I had left my job in the finance, that's not what I went to do. I didn't become a financial advisor. I didn't, get certified to be, in any of those financial fields. And there are entrepreneurs that do that. They pursue that. The last 7 years of my career was in finance. But when I left and started my own business, it became all about professional development, training, so working with organizations, teaching. So it was very much different than what people had known me for 7 years prior to that, even though I'd been in a leadership role, but they just knew me in the financial industry. So I had to shift my brand a bit in the early stages. And that could be a challenging process because your brand is essentially, it's what people see or say about you, or they know about you when you're not in the room. Like, what's that reputation? What do they know you by? How do they describe what you do and the services you provide? And so one of the first things I did was revamp, believe it or not, my LinkedIn profile. So LinkedIn's been around for a long time, but I knew that was where a lot of people went to get to see people and figure out who they were. So I said, the first thing I'm going to do is revamp my LinkedIn profile so that the narrative started to change on who I was and what I did. And then when conversations with people, I would make sure to correct them because they would often, introduce me or say my name in relation to this other career that I had. And so then I would make sure, well, this is what I'm doing now. And here's the field that I'm in. And here's, what I have going on. So that was an interesting part. And that may happen for some folks that are switching gears in their business or was once an employee for someone and then now becoming an entrepreneur and they're changing. Brand is important. And just know this, your brand may change over time. It may evolve. Early on, I started working with individuals doing, I guess you would call it life coaching. If we remember that term, that was really popular. And I was like, well, that's not really what I want to do. That's not really my sweet spot. It's not life coaching. It's more coaching as it relates to management coaching. And so I even had to switch that from people and making sure that they understood that. But your brand will evolve. So I am now crystal clear on who it is and what I do. And that took about a good 5 years into me starting a business. So that's one part of it. Another part of it is your promise. Your word is bond. If you've never heard that, I'm old school, I'm a Gen Xer. So, your word is bond. When you make a promise and you say you're going to do something, that is what your clients expect of you. And so a big part of your brand, again, is how you're seen in the space where other people are raving about you or talking bad about you. And, in social media, you will hear them all. So for me, I had to make sure that we put in some core values in our business model. We said, okay, this is who we're going to be. We're going to be a people of our word. We're going to do what we say we're going to do. We're not going to look for perfection, but we're going to look for progress. We're going to see opportunities and obstacles. And we just started living and breathing that. So the team that I have now, whenever I bring someone onto our team, I make sure they embody these core values that we put in place because they're a representation of me when they interact with my clients. And as you grow your business, you will have others working with you, and you need to make sure that they can represent your brand as well, if not better than you.
You've been listening to Refocus Radio, talking to our guest, Tiana Sanchez, and she is the CEO and founder of TSI, Tiana Sanchez International. And she also has amazing books that you should check out. One of the first ones, Undefeatable. That's another great book that people can read, Conquering Self-Defeat, because like we've been talking about, you can fail by quitting, or you can learn from failure and go to the levels in life that are meant for you, because only you can make those decisions to go to the next level. You have to push yourself. And like you said, you got to have people around you that are going to showcase what your core values are. So my next question for you is, in your first book, Undefeatable, you mentioned an exercise, builders and blockers. Can you kind of share a little bit about that for our audience?
Yes, I love this exercise because you can literally do it anywhere, anytime, for any audience, young and old, and it never dies out, just never gets old. But I use this exercise when people start to create doubt or excuses not to do something. When you start really hearing that victim language, I can't, I'm not, I won't, or when someone has a dream, a goal, and they haven't been able to accomplish it, and then you hear all these reasons why someone can't or hasn't done something. And so this is a very simple exercise, and it's really just writing it down, getting out what's in our head on paper. So you take a piece of paper, and if your listeners are listening, I encourage them to do it now. I'm all for Paul pause and play when you're listening to podcasts and radio shows is play it back, pause it, so that you can write. But get a piece of paper, get a pen or pencil, and then just draw a line down the middle. And then on the left side, you'll write blockers. And on the right side, you'll write builders. And so essentially you think of one thing, one goal, one dream that you have not accomplished. Okay. So let's say it's, I want to, get my degree, I want to, get my degree. I want to get a promotion, at work. I want to start a business, let's say that's it. So let's say I want to start a business as a goal or dream you haven't done yet. So on the left side, you're going to write down what has been blocking you from accomplishing that dream or vision, right? So starting a business, what are some things that you can think of? Your audience are probably thinking of stuff. I don't know if you are thinking of anything, but what comes to mind? Money, right? Starting a business, I don't have any capital. I don't have any money. I have no seed. Okay, so you write that down. What are some other things? For me, if I were doing this exercise, starting a business 12 years ago, I would have said no experience. I've never run a business before. I don't know what that even means. So maybe it's lack of experience. Okay. What else might be a blocker to starting a business? I don't have a location to run my business, right? I don't have a storefront or something. So you write all these things down. And let me tell you, your list on the blocker side is going to be long because we often focus on what we don't have. So if you see a long list on the blocker side, just know that is very common. You're likely going to have more on the left than you are on the right. But it's good to get it out because you see it visually. It's no longer in your head. You're like, okay, here's the things that I see as a blocker. Okay, so now you go over to the builder side. And so the builder side is essentially the things that you already have that maybe you've overlooked or that you haven't even tapped into because you didn't see them as a builder. You didn't even see them as something as a benefit. So your builders are often the intangibles. They're not something that you can really always touch, but it's things like it might be your, a time management trait. It might be, well, I don't have a location, but I have a home. I have an extra room in my house that I can use temporarily. It may not be that I have additional capital, but I do have some savings aside, or I do have an aunt or uncle who I can reach out to who might want to give me an investment of some funds, or I have a strong network of venture capitalists or people that I know who I might be able to tap into. I don't have a degree or business knowledge, but I have access to a computer and I can go online and take some courses for free wherever. So you start to identify what are the things that you have, and essentially your builders become your solutions to your blockers, because the blockers are essentially the things that stop you. They're the I can't, I won't, I don't have. But then when you realize what you do have, you can start somewhere, and it's the starting that is what you need to do. You're not going to have everything perfect. You're not going to have all your, ducks in a row, as they say, is an old school term, but you can start where you are and build from there.
We're talking to Tiana Sanchez. You can go to her website, tianasanchez.com. And also for our listeners, appreciate everything you've been saying so far, because you're like Steph Curry just hitting threes all day. But you have an amazing assessment for business owners as well. And it's called the Propeller 360 assessment that can be found on your website, and kind of gives valuable feedback for their business. And if you could kind of touch on the 10 success pillars, or just in general, what that assessment can do for someone's company.
Oh, absolutely. The Propeller 360 assessment is essentially an assessment that is designed for a leader of a company to quickly answer, quickly evaluate where they feel they are on these kind of 10 areas, if you will. So what we do is we provide on our website, we have a link. And we send folks to this link, and it's something that you can easily access on our website as well. And you click on it, you put your information, you're asked a series of questions, and you'll get a score. So, one of the areas is roles and responsibilities or unified vision. And it'll ask you some questions like, does your organization have a vision that is embraced by all, employees in the company? Something to that degree, not reading it verbatim, but something like that. And then you'd give yourself a score. So you might say, okay, we're a 2 or we're a 4, on that, whatever that might look like. And you go through each one of these 10. It takes you about, I want to say maybe 7 to 12 minutes. And after that, you get a report. So you get this download, and it's like a pie chart, and it shows you how you've rated your company in these 10 areas. And it's great information because when I work with clients, these are the questions that I always ask. And it can be a very lengthy conversation and in multiple meetings. So this way, this kind of saves us a lot of time if they go in and they answer these questions. Because now when I look at it, I can be more targeted in my approach. I can say, okay, well, out of these 10 pillars, there's 3 of them that I've identified, or these are the areas where they score at the lowest. And so we may want to start there. So I get to prioritize where I want to start with my clients. And then they too get to see, wow, I didn't even realize, this was an area for us, that like this was a concern that we didn't do very well. So that is the assessment is designed as a tool for the client so they can get a quick snapshot of these areas of where they find themselves, but also for me so that I can be more targeted in my approach and prioritize their biggest needs. And that helps me so that when I do get to a solution stage, that now I'm sure that I'm tackling the right things. So that's the assessment. We're really proud of it. It's personally designed. There's not one else like that out there, to my knowledge, because we had our internal team design this assessment specifically for us. And so we're really proud of it.
And your business has been able to work with some major brands. So for our listeners, what has it been like for you to, if you can kind of review what you've done so far, what has it been like to kind of look back and say, wow, like we are doing it. Like, our dreams are coming true. We're working with some elite brands, and we're helping corporate and CEOs become the most powerful force in their community.
It is something to behold when you get to a point in your career and your business where you feel like, and I say this cautiously, that you've arrived. Now, I'm of the firm belief that there's no final destination for me anyway. Like, this work will continue. But when you get to a point where, wow, we are really doing the work, and then you hear the comments from clients, or you get the emails, or you get the referrals, really is what stands out when people that you've worked with actually refer your business. So in the last 12 years, we have worked with quite a lot of companies, serving them directly or indirectly. We've worked with luxury car brands. We've worked with entertainment, media studios. We've worked with local government agencies and U.S. agencies. We've worked with higher education, so some universities and Cal States, and the list goes on. And most of the clients that we've worked with have been referrals, have been through someone, or someone's connected me on LinkedIn. And I don't get any, I don't have any stock in LinkedIn right now, but a lot of businesses come through LinkedIn. So let me just put that out there. I leverage it and I love it. But we get a lot of referrals from people as well. You can't rely only on referrals, in my opinion. So if you're a business owner out there or an entrepreneur, you should have a strategy to keep your pipeline full and always be planting seeds out there. But what has helped us over the years is referrals and people contacting us, seeing the work, being in attendance in one of our meetings or conferences or speaking engagements that I've done. Is like, hey, we want to talk to you. So that has been tremendous. And so what we see on the horizon now is we're hoping to work with, I'm going to put it out in the atmosphere, but we're hoping to do some work with the WNBA. That is my goal, is to do some work with them. I'm also looking to explore other ventures and opportunities and continue to increase our revenue. So those are some goals that we have.
There's some awesome goals to have. Once again, been talking to Tiana Sanchez here on Refocus Radio. You can go visit her website, tianasanchez.com. And man, like I sometimes tell my guests on the show, you kind of make this look real easy. Sometimes I pinch myself when I'm talking to certain people because like, wow, this is amazing. And it just proves that anything can happen when someone puts their mind to it, and when they don't give up, and when they keep pushing themselves to be their better self each and every day. So lastly, for our listeners, talk to the young people who may aspire to be an entrepreneur one day and own their own brand, what words of encouragement would you plant for them to hold on to?
You never get anywhere alone. So, that was probably one of the biggest things, as you just mentioned and described, and appreciate the compliment. And it's one of those things, no one who has ever reached any level of success did it by themselves, contrary to what they may say, contrary to what you might think. No one, and I mean no one, gets anywhere without someone, without some resource, without a connection, without favor. People don't get to these levels by themselves. Yes, it takes their resilience, their fortitude, their attitude of being in a good place, but it does come with others' help and support along the way. So my suggestion is find that circle for yourself. Find those folks that can support you. Stay away from the folks that are not down for you, that are naysayers. And it is different from a naysayer is different from someone who is giving you some constructive feedback, right? Because we don't always want to hear, we shouldn't always be around people that tell us what we want to hear, but we should surround ourselves with people who tell us what we need to hear as well. Those are not naysayers, but you do have to discern between the two. But that would be my suggestion. Find your tribe, find your circle, find your people that are going to be with you for this journey, because it is a journey. You're going to have some highs, you're going to have some lows, but let me tell you, when the highs come, they feel really, really great. So, and if you're really young out there, like I have a son who's very entrepreneurial. For parents of these entrepreneurs, support them, encourage them, lift them up, because this is their dream and this is what they want to pursue. Don't try to push your own dreams on them, but support them, find a way to really rally behind them. And I think that'll be good for everybody.
And once again, listen, I Refocus Radio. We're talking to our special guest for today, Tiana Sanchez. Go to her website. It's tianasanchez.com. Get her 2 books. Is we just kind of highlighted some of it. It's Undefeatable, Conquering Self-Defeat, and also get F'd Up, The Upside of Failure. She is also the host of an amazing show, and you should check it out, Like a Real Boss podcast. She's doing great things with that. But man, first and foremost, I want to say thank you to you, Tiana, for just taking time talking to us today and sharing us some very actionable steps that we can take.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. I hope your guests walked away with some nuggets.